All right, let's start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Chakodash. Welcome to another live lesson. Ba'ashem. The name of this one is the Syrophenician woman and the woman at the well. We're going to deal with these two women because you have so-called Christians they teach that the that the Syrophenician woman was a heathen, that the Lord healed her daughter, and that's not the case. And you have Israelites that know that they're Israelites that say that the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman, was an Israelite, and she was not. And shalom to the Akim on the comment boards all over the place. Shalom to Mexico, brothers out there in Mexico. And shalom to the Akwath, the sisters out there. So this lesson is going to be centered around that. See, with these different churches, they have a warped understanding of the Bible. And this is why they'll make statements like that. And this is why they get tripped up when they read scriptures like there's no difference between a Jew and a Greek. Whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. See, they get trapped up because they really don't have a full understanding of the scriptures. And I'd like to give a hearty shalom in Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, B'Shem Chakodash, to the Akim, elders Akim, on the comment board that of the sincere elect. So this is what happens, they get confused because plantation Christianity has done a number on the minds of the people. And this is why the Lord in the last days sent his prophets out, his teachers, to rectify everything before the coming of the Lord. So we're going to start off with the book of Mark, the 7th chapter, the 24th verse, to deal with the Syrophenician woman. Now, the Syrophenician woman is an Israelite, just off the rip, just to let you know off the rip. This is why the Apostle Paul said this. Right here, Romans 3:22. This is good too. Acts 15:9, and put no difference between us and them, purifying their hearts by faith. And this is dealing with the heathen, which are the Israelite foreigners. So the Apostle Paul said, Romans 3:22, even Romans 10:12. For there is no difference between a Jew and the Greek. And why is that? Because they're both Israelites. Just one knew that they were Israelites and the other ones didn't. Then you had a set of Israelites that were called the Hellenistas, which knew they were Israelites, but they spoke the Greek language. They didn't speak the Hebrew. For the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him, because they're all Israelites. And the prayer that King Solomon gave in 1 Kings the 8th chapter, and I believe it's 2 Chronicles the 6th chapter, that was dealing with all Israelites when they turned back to the Lord and pray unto Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai for forgiveness, that the Lord will forgive them. Same thing that Yahweh Shai did when he came as himself more than, let's say 2,000 years ago. John the 17th chapter was a prayer that he prayed to the Most High for the elect. All right, so now let's move on. Mark 7:24. And from thence he arose and went into the borders of Tyre and Sidon. Now, for those of you that don't know where Tyre and Sidon is, you need to start doing some studying. But if you happen to be, a new member, then that's understandable. You're not expected to know every little thing, but there's certain key things on the map that you should know. Now, the borders of Tyre and Sidon, I don't know if you can see it that well here. I was trying to see if I could get a bigger, let's see, I was trying to get a bigger map. Let's see. Nope, that's small. That's small. Man, it's a little bigger, but not much. Let's see. All right, this is decent right here. So let's get rid of that. So you have here Zidon and you have Tyre. These are coast cities on the coast. This is the Mediterranean Sea. You see Jerusalem down here. All right. So this is where in the area where he was at, where Yahushua was at, so you could understand. From thence he arose and went into the borders of Tyre and Zidon, and entered into an house, and would have no man know it, but he could not be hid, because Yahushua tried to go certain places to avoid everybody sometimes, but he couldn't be hid because of the fame of him that was going out. And that was the Lord, the Most High Yahweh, building up that fame, to gather the elect. It says, for a certain woman whose young daughter had an unclean spirit heard of him and came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, so automatically they're thinking about a so-called white woman, which that's not the case. When you deal with Greek history, the original Greeks were Japhetic, and the original Japhetic people were people of color. When you research the Minoans, you research the Etruscans, the Picts, which that's what the Romans call them, the Picts, which is short for picture people, because they had all type of tattoos all over them, So this is talking about an Israelite woman. This is why we started off with the scripture. There's no difference between a Jew and the Greek, because you had Israelites that were in the Greek culture that lost their identity. When you go back to the book of the Maccabees, that's why it's important to know the history of the Maccabees and the Hellenization of Israel to really fully understand the New Testament. And when it speaks about the Gentiles, it speaks about the Greeks, it speaks about the heathen, so on and so forth. So it says the woman was a Syrophenician. The woman was a Greek, a Syrophenician by nation, because she was living in the area of Syrophoenicia, which the Syrophoenicia, which is Syria and Phoenicia mixed. That's two cities. And when you look or two places, should I say? And when you look up, let me see. Let's see if we can get that up real quick. Syrophoenicia. You know what? Let me just make it easier. I just add an A to it. All right, let's see what we got here. Yeah, these maps are so small, man. Let's see if I open this up. Yeah. It's kind of small. Well, it was in that area of Syria, and you have Phoenicia, which is, that's around the land of Canaan in that area. So it's not really popping up. There we go. Syrian Phoenicia. It would be in this area here. This is where he was at, and this is where the woman was born. So she had that citizenship of being called a Syrophenician, just like Uriah had the title, the Hittite. He wasn't a Hamite. He was an Israelite that just happened to be living among the Canaanites, and he had that name, the Hittite, because that's where he came from. Like you have the Brooklynite or the Chicagoite, or however they say it today. All right. So now it says the woman was a Greek, a Syrophenician by nation, and she besought him that he would cast forth the devil out of her daughter. Now let's see what Yahushua said to her. But Yahushua said unto her, let the children first be filled. Now, why did he say let the children first be filled if she's the Israelite herself? Well, let's go to the book of Zechariah, chapter 12, I believe it is. Is it chapter 12? Yep, 12 and 7. The Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first, because the Lord first came for the Jews, the Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Now you did have a sprinkling of the other nations, of the other tribes there, but majority of the people that were there were Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. And this is he came to Judah first, because Judah is what? The head tribe. We read in Genesis, the 49th chapter, that Judah, thou art he who thy brethren shall praise. So they are the head tribe. And by right, the Lord set them up as a head, even though they were, Judah was the fourth born son, of Jacob. He set him up to be the head, because that's how the Lord wanted it. So the Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem, meaning the rest of the tribes, do not magnify themselves against Judah. See? So this is why he mentioned that. He said, let the children first be filled, for it is not meet, or it is not right to take the children's bread and cast it unto the dogs. He said, well, if she's an Israelite, why you call her a dog? Well, because she was in that dog-like state, like the rest of Israel was, the Israelite foreigners. Like when we read here in Revelation 22:14, blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life. This is Revelation 22:14. And may enter in through the gates into the city, for without are dogs. Without what? Without the commandments. And sorcerers, and whoremongers, and murderers, and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. So without the commandments are dogs. So he called it that because she was in that, obviously she was in that state of mind, because that's what the Israelite foreigners were like. This is why the Apostle Paul said in Ephesians, the 2nd chapter, that at that time we were without Yahushai, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel. So this is 1 Corinthians 12 and 2. You know that you were Gentiles, carried away unto these dumb idols, even as you were led. So this is what caused you to fall from grace. The great fall from grace. So you became like brute beasts. You became that degenerate plant of a strange vine. So this is who Yahushua is speaking to, an Israelite foreigner. And it wasn't time for the Israelite foreigners to get this message, because the message first had to be taught to the Jews, the ones that knew that they were Israelites, especially the tribe of Judah, going back to the prophecy in Zechariah 12. So when he said it is not meet to take the children's bread and cast it to the dogs, was because she, at that time, was not in her right state of mind as far as keeping the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. She was off. And then she turned around and said this to him, and she answered and said unto him, yes, Lord, yet the dogs under the table eat of the children's crumbs. And he said unto her, for this saying, go thy way, the devil is gone out of thy daughter. Why? Because she humbled herself. And that was the thing with the Israelite foreigners, that they humbled themselves and they came back through what? Through faith. They would be delivered. And that's what the whole book of Romans 11 chapter is about. It's about the Jews, the Israelites that knew they were Israelites, and the Israelites that did not know they were Israelites, that were being called uncircumcision, heathen, Gentiles, that were being brought back into favor with the Lord and being grafted back into the olive tree. All right. It says, and when she was come to her house, she found the devil gone out, and her daughter had laid upon the bed. Yeah, because the Lord healed her daughter because of her faith. That's what healed her daughter. But she was an Israelite. She just happened to be in that state. So now when we read Philippians chapter 2 and 2, the Apostle Paul is calling these wicked Pharisees, and then what? Beware of dogs. Beware of evil workers. Beware of the concision. So, if you call someone a dog, that means that they're not an Israelite. Well, who was Paul speaking about? He was speaking about the Jews in Jerusalem. Because they were in that dog state. Because what were they doing? Were they really keeping the commandments of the Lord? No, they weren't. Because they were holding the traditions of the elders in higher regard and higher esteem than the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. They were corrupting the words of the Lord. That's why the Apostle Paul came back and said, we are not as many that corrupt. We are not as many as corrupt the word of the Lord. All right. And moving on, even the Most High himself, Yahweh, called these false pastors and false leaders a bunch of dogs. Isaiah 56:10. His watchmen are blind. They are all ignorant. They are all dumb dogs, meaning they're mute dogs. And what good is a mute dog for? A dog is supposed to, if he hears the enemy coming, he's supposed to bark. Therefore, you know that there's something wrong. You know, somebody's creeping around because they have a better sense of hearing and smell. But if the dog can't bark, if he's a mute, then the dog can't bark. So he's useless. So the Lord is calling these pastors and these leaders in Israel a bunch of dumb dogs. They cannot bark, sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber. Yet they are greedy dogs, which can never have enough. And you've seen that. If you see the nature of a dog, you feed a dog, the dog will keep eating probably till he blows up. Because he won't stop eating. The more food you throw on the ground, the more he's going to eat. So the Lord compared these venomous vipers to greedy dogs that can never have enough. And they are shepherds that cannot understand. They all look to their own way, even everyone for his gain from his quarter. Come ye, say they, I will fetch wine, and we will fill ourselves with strong drink. This is dealing with those philosophies. This is dealing with those wayward doctrines that are coming in to the knowledge. It says, and tomorrow shall be as this day, and much more abundant, because they're putting Jake to sleep. That's what the scripture say. The leaders of this people cause them to err. All right. So now, you know, this is just to show you that this woman that the Lord called a dog, she was not a heathen. She was an Israelite. Otherwise, the Lord would not have healed her daughter. Now, in contrast to the Syrophenician woman, right? The woman that was at the well, this woman that was at the well, she's not an Israelite based off what the Lord said to her. See, there's a difference. Because this woman came to him, and he didn't tell her that she wasn't an Israelite. He just called her, it's not meet to take the children's bread and to cast it to dogs. And she said, truth, Lord, but the dogs eat from the crumbs that fall from the children's table. Because she was an Israelite, but she was in a heathen state of mind. You know, Israelite foreigner, as we call it. And that's what it was. And when you go back, that's why the Pharisees and them wanted to kill Paul, because they said he was bringing heathen into the temple. You know, they probably didn't have any beards. You know, they were dressed like Romans or Greeks. You know, some of them probably had tattoos or different brands on, from branding irons on them. But they were being brought back to the fold, so they were being cleaned up. And this is why the Apostle Peter and them, the one thing they told them, don't eat things strangled, don't eat blood, don't commit fornication, which is adultery. So there was certain things from the law that was a guideline for those Israelite foreigners coming back out of that state, because they couldn't keep the law 100%, because the Israelites that knew they were Israelites weren't keeping the law 100%. And that was Peter and them in their argument. All right, so now let's go from there to St. John 4:7. There cometh the woman of Samaria to draw water. Yahushua saith unto her, give me to drink. Now, let's see if here we go. This is a good map right here. You see Galilee there, Nazareth. You have here Samaria. This is the land of Samaria. Now, what happened in the land of Samaria were the Israelites that were there were taken out. When you read their history in 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, and transplants were put there. You had Babylonians that were put there. You had different nations that were put there. There were a lot of different nations that were brought in there by the Assyrians to inhabit this land instead of the Ephraimites and other Israelites that were in these areas. So from that point on, when you read the history, they weren't keeping the laws of the Lord. So the Lord sent lions to destroy them. So then they had to send back one Levite priest, and that Levite priest showed them the manner of how to worship the Father, and they started doing that, but they were still worshiping their idols. So from that point on, until this time, and even until today, but until this time when Yahushua was speaking to this woman was a descendant of those heathens. It doesn't say which one, she was descended from, but it was one of those different heathens that we read about in the book of 2 Kings, the 17th chapter. So that's where they were at, all right? So it goes on to say, let me bring this over here just in case I need it again. All right. So it says for his it says let me read this again. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Yahweh shall say unto her, Give me to drink. For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, How is it that thou, being a Jew, askest drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. And that was true. So she's already separating herself from the Lord. He's going to even further separate from her as soon as she opens her mouth and starts talking about that her and her father's worship in this mountain. So Yahweh shall answer and said unto her, If thou knewest the gift of the Most High, who it is that said to thee, Give me to drink, thou wouldst have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. He was just messing with her. You know? And how do we know? Because as we read further down, it's going to explain it. The woman saith unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then hast thou this living water, that living water? Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well? Jacob didn't give you the well. Jacob did not give you this well. This well was given to you by the Assyrian king Shalmaneser that took the Israelites out of there and put the transplants in there. When you go back and read the history, and drank thereof himself and his children and his cattle, Yahweh shall answer and said unto her, Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. And when you read the history too of Samaria, you had Israelites that knew that they were Israelites that were accused of breaking the law. And some of them did it. Some of them probably didn't do it. But they would flee to Samaria for refuge. So you had a lot of Israelites that were mingled in among those heathens in Samaria. And her husband at the time, or the man that she was dealing with at the time, happened to be an Israelite. And this is why the Lord said what he said later on in the chapter. The woman said unto him, Sir, give me this water that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw. He should have said, Oh, yes, daughter, no problem. Yahweh said unto her, Go, call thy husband and come hither. So why did he tell her to call her husband? Because she was not an Israelite. Her husband was. It says, the woman answered and said, I have no husband. Yahweh said unto her, Thou hast well said, I have no husband, for thou hast had 5 husbands. She pretty much was a harlot, a hoe. And he whom thou now hast is not thy husband, and that saidest thou truly. Yep. And that is the truth. Because really the only true husband of a woman is the first man that they lay down with. That is really the true husband. Anybody else is really much, that's pretty much adultery, to get technical. So this is why Yahweh said that called this a nation of adulterers, because technically if a woman deals with another man outside of the first man she lays down with, she's an adulteress, and that's just the truth, but we have grace now, to where the Lord is extending mercy unto us, because really, and nowadays, who can really find a virgin? The only way a woman can have another man is if her husband dies and she is a widow. The woman saith unto him, Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet. Our fathers worship in this mountain. She's right, they did worship in that mountain. Why? Because they were transplanted there and they were shown how to worship by that one Levite priest. And you say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. Yahweh said unto her, Woman, believe me, the hour cometh when you shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. See? So pretty much he was letting her know that, look, you're not an Israelite. So I don't care what you say about your fathers worshiping here. And why were they worshiping there? Going back to 2 Kings 17:24. And the king of Assyria, which was Shalmaneser, brought men from Babylon and from Cutha and from Ava and from Hamath and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel, and they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. So from this point on, those descendants that were there were heathens, right? And this is why when you speed it up after the destruction of the temple by the Babylonians and the restoration of the temple during the time of Ezra, Nehemiah, and them. You had the heathens once again come. Ezra 4:1. Now when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard that the children of the captivity builded the temple unto the Lord power of Israel, then they came to Zerubbabel and to the chief of the fathers and said unto them, Let us build with you, for we seek your power as you do. And we do sacrifice unto him since the days of Esarhaddon, king of Ashur, which brought us up hither. See? So you had constant transplants going in there. Now when we look up Shalmaneser V, 727 to 722 BC, this is the one that brought the Israelites out of that land, brought them to the land of Assyria, and brought transplants. And they kept doing that. So now when we jump down here to Esarhaddon, 681 to 669 BC, this is the one that was being spoken of here in the book of Ezra, the 4th chapter. So all the way from 2 Kings, these different kings here, you have the Shalmaneser, the Sargon II, Sennacherib, Esarhaddon, they were bringing in transplants into that land. And that's why they said here that we do sacrifice unto him since the days of Esarhaddon, king of Ashur, which brought us up hither. So this is why it's important to understand certain history, to be able to understand what the dialogue is here between Yahushua and this woman. That's why she said, our fathers worship in this mountain. And you say that in Jerusalem is a place where we ought to worship. Now, if she was an Israelite, what he would have said to her was, you're right, going back into the history, blah, 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 whoop-de-woo, whatever the case may be. But you're going to be able to come to Jerusalem and worship because that's the place of worship now. All right? So it says, Yahushua said unto her, but this is what he said. Yahushua said unto her, Woman, believe me that the hour cometh when you shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. Ye worship ye know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. See, and most of those nations did not understand Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and all of that. They understood Jews, Judeans. So that's why it says salvation is of the Jews. But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshiper shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeketh such to worship him. And this is what he was telling her, because she was not, but obviously her husband was an Israelite that was considered to be an apostate. You had something called an apostate. Let me see if I can find this precept in the book of Ecclesiasticus. I believe it's the 50th chapter or the 51st chapter. If I can't find it, I'll just look in the book. Okay, beautiful. This is it. Ecclesiasticus 50 and 25. There be two manner of nations which my heart abhorreth or avoids, and the third is no nation. They that sit upon the mount of Samaria. But when you look this up in the Spanish and other I believe it's this one. It's either this one or the bottom one. It speaks about Esau. It's really talking about Esau. It says, they that sit upon the mountain of Samaria, and they that dwell among the Philistines, and that foolish people that dwell in Sychem. And I believe this is the one, Sychem, that's the one I believe that deals with the Samaritans. But let me, just bear with me 1 second. Just bear with me 1 second. Yeah, so it's this one, the Sychem, because this is the one that where the Samaritans were at this time. It says, and that foolish people that dwell in Sychem. I believe that's the one. And what he was saying pretty much was those foolish Israelites that went and mingled themselves among them. If I'm not mistaken, like I said, it's been a while since I've gone over this, and there was another version of this. Yep, that's the one. Well, really, it's talking about those heathens. And where it says Samaria, it mentions the Edomites. But I'm not sure if that was a Spanish Bible. You know, I'm not sure if that was a Spanish Bible or not. Just bear with me 1 second. Let's see. That's all right. That's all right. Just bear with me 1 second. I just want to see if I could find that real quick. Just bear with me 1 second. Of course. Wouldn't be there. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm not sure where I have it at right now at this particular time. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. Nah, I don't have it. But what I could do, because I have it here, I could download it real quick. Okay. Now let me see if I can find it. Here we go. All right. Now let me see if I can find that real quick. Salaki, I know, you know. Hey, well, sometimes you got to do that. All right, Solomon. Ecclesiasticus, that's what we want. This is the Spanish Bible, by the way. La Biblia del Oso. The brother from Mexico, he knows about this Bible. Let's see. All right, let's see. That's 51, and this is 50. And that was what, verse 25, right? Yeah, no, this one says the same thing. There was one, I can't remember what it was, if it was a different translation that actually spoke about the Edomites. You know, in this verse here, it's either this one or the bottom one that said Edomites. I believe it was this top one, they that sit upon the mountain of Esau, or something like that, or Seir. You know, and if I find it, you know, our Lord's will, I'll bring it out again another time. But yeah, it says Seir here, the mountains of Seir. They that dwell among the Philistines, and that foolish people that dwell in Sychem, which were those Samaritans, transplants that were put in Samaria. All right. So and this is why the wicked Pharisees and them called Yahushua a Samaritan. Let me see if I can find that real quick. And this is after he cursed them out, called them a bunch of devils. So were they really devils? No, they were acting like they fathered the devil, but they were Israelites. You know? Let me just look at it. Let me see. Find. Here we go. John 8:48. Then answered the Jews and said unto him, Say we not well that thou art a Samaritan and hast a devil? So why did they say that to him? Because they understood about those apostates. You know, they understood about the apostates of the Jews that ran for refuge among the Samaritans. Let's see. That's in the book of the Josephus. Let's see. I did a lesson on this, couple of lessons on this. I'm pretty sure I still have that. If I find it, I may just upload it. But there's an actual account in the Josephus, where it spoke about, you know, the apostate Jews, pretty much that fled for refuge among the Samaritans. You know, and this is why, because pretty much what they were doing, they were cursing Yahushai. Matter of fact, this might be it. Hold on. Just let me do it. Find. All right, beautiful. Here we go. Here we go. Let's go. Let's go, champ. All right, here we go. Says, so this is, wow. This is the Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews, book 11. And this would be chapter, where are we at? Chapter 8 and section 6. So when Alexander had thus settled matters at Jerusalem, he led his army into the neighboring cities, and when all the inhabitants to whom he came received him with great kindness, the Samaritans, who had then Shechem for their metropolis, a city situate at Mount Gerizim and inhabited by apostates of the Jewish nation. See, so you had some apostates of the Jewish nation that were there. And why were they apostates? Because they were accused of breaking the law, and some of them actually did it, some of them didn't. And to avoid judgment and punishment, they fled and lived among the Samaritans. And this is why Yahushua told a woman to go get her husband, because he was obviously an Israelite. So Yahushua came back and said to her, "You worship you know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshippers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeketh such to worship him." Yeah, the Israelites. The Most High is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. The woman saith unto him, "I know that Messiah cometh, which is called the Anointed. When he is come, he will tell us all things." Yahushua said unto her, I that speak unto thee am he. And upon this came his disciples, and marveled that he talked with the woman. Yet no man said, "Why, what seekest thou, or why talkest thou with her?" The woman then left her water pot, and went her way into the city, and saith to the men, "Come, see a man who told me all things that I ever did. Is not this the Anointed?" Then they went out of the city and came unto him. In the meanwhile, his disciples prayed him, saying, "Master, eat." But he said unto them, "I have meat to eat that you know not of." So now let's jump down to 39. And many of the Samaritans of that city believed on him for the saying of the woman, which testified, "He told me all that ever I did." Yeah, so these were Israelites that were summoned, so to speak, by Yahushua through this woman. So when the Samaritans would come unto him, they besought him that he would tarry with them, and he abode there 2 days. And many more believed because of his own words, and said unto the woman, "Now we believe, not because of thy saying, for we have heard him ourselves, and know that this is indeed the Anointed, the Savior of the world." See? So now at this point, you know, he had spoken to the Jews, you know, and these were Israelites that knew they were Israelites, but they were accused of breaking the law. You know, so this is prior to Yahushua going to the Israelite foreigners. You know, because he said other sheep I have which are not of this flock, because they weren't Israelite foreigners. They were Jews that knew they were Israelites, but they fled because they were being accused of committing a crime against the law. You know, and that's where you get the apostate Jews, which they were being called apostates by the actual Pharisees and them that were in the land of Israel. Just like they were calling the Israelite foreigners, they were calling them uncircumcised. You know? So there's a lot of history, you know, a lot of history. So the difference between the Syrophenician woman and the woman at the well was that the Syrophenician woman was indeed an Israelite, and the woman at the well was not. The woman at the well, her line goes back to one of those inhabitants of 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, whether she was a Babylonian or Cutha or Ava or Sepharvaim, one of those, you know. So with that, I pray that you brothers have been edified. Till the next time I say shalom.